commissioners. And I now want us to transition to talk about matters in the counties. I realize that Deputy Speaker is not very comfortable with matters that might fall on the floor for debate. Something happened in Kericho County Assembly sometime last week. I think it was on Friday. Watch. All right. Well, that's the footage you have of what transpired in that assembly. We'll be listening to some of the MCAs later on. But first, Governor, what is wrong? I mean, it's close to 5 months since the election. Actually, it's already 5 months since the election. What's going on in that assembly that is yet to settle 5 months in?
Okay. For one, I want to apologize to the great people of Kericho, because as a governor, it's a shame that instead of discussing development and what we are supposed to be doing, because time is running, we are discussing about people who have chosen to forget the people that elected them and decide to fight for their positions. There was an election that was done by the county assembly members immediately after they were sworn in the assembly, and they were able to elect their majority leader, as it is by the party caucus. Is that the law says that the majority party will be able to, in either way, consensus or election, be able to have a majority leader. Of course, that was done, and after a short while, less than a month, I think, or a month or so, the elected majority at that time traveled to Egypt for COP27. As soon as he was on the plane, I hear some people sat somewhere there, decided that they don't need it anymore, forged some signatures, and even those signatures were forged. They took an affidavit that our signatures were forged. Mm-hmm. And of course, a coup d'etat happened. And while he was away in Egypt, it became the actual mystery in the Bible. And he came back to find his seat is not there. Then from there, the other person who was placed in as the majority had rankles, because there was a sense of unacceptability from the so-said majority and stuff like that. And this has been a problem all along, and now they had another meeting. Of course, the president had directed when we were at Eldoret that we had called all of us, and we were there with the members, with the leaders from Bomet County, and he said, you people go and solve these problems. Mm-hmm. We tried as much as possible to reach out to a mediation with them, and they insisted that the way to go is an election. So what we did was to try to organize for them to see if they can agree among themselves, either by consensus or by an election, who again, they want to be their majority leader. Mm. So they agreed again on a different person. Mm-hmm. And when they agreed on this one, they went back to the assembly. And on that particular day, for me, that day, I didn't expect the chaos, because I was pushing for the supplementary budget to be approved by the House, because my feelings are there are so many things that need to be done, and the Assembly has been in wrangles over and over, no single legislation, nothing is happening, and we really wanted the supplementary to go through. But that morning, I hear that there was a communication from the party, that the Speaker, in his own wisdom, chose not to communicate the commission of the party, but communicate an out-of-court consent that the previous protagonists and antagonists had agreed on. And now there was, at that time on the table, another communication from the party. I wouldn't want to say this, but there's been a struggle for majority leader and the whip. On that day, I hear again that there was unilateral change of sectorial committees in the House. Of course, it shouldn't have gone that bad, because this is a situation where people can sit on the table and negotiate, give and take, that, okay, you be
unilateral, what do you mean? Who made the changes?
From what the members were struggling, they say that the Speaker, with some group of people close to him, decided to change the committees without going through the selection process, because we have what you call the select committee in the assembly. Okay. And so the contest has been about the majority leader in the House. But I would say at this point of time, because I know the party has instigated the processes of discussions with those particular MCAs, but I would say going to the future or looking into this, it also speaks to the maturity of our county assemblies, because we need then, and my thinking that we need to mature our county assemblies more so that they're able to even negotiate within themselves and be able to accept the best method of accepting who is going to be a leader for them. And once we get a majority leader, I look into the experience in Senate. Today, we have majority leader in the Senate, Aaron Cheriot, who is a very astute leader, a 3-time seasoned senator, actually. And you will see the temperance, the way he's able to bring the House together and bridge the divide. You will see Kimani Ichung'wah in Parliament, the experience that he had. So looking into this, it may also speak to us as we move to the future on how best we can organize themselves. To the Speaker, I don't know for what reason why the Speaker wouldn't communicate the parties, because there's a letter from the SG of the party, that these are the accepted members from the party. And again, I was asking these guys a simple question. We have 47 elected, we have 47 MCAs in Kericho Assembly. 3 are not members from the party. They are independent candidates. They came through independent ticket. So what remains is 44. And my question is, our good speaker from my good county is a BAD holder. And being a BAD holder, I wonder what months is required within a number of 44, just 44, to count them and say you belong to where. If they say this is for Sigai and this is for Deputy Speaker, and you just have a number, if they have accepted, if they have refused to have a negotiated democracy, then the easiest thing is you call these guys and tell them, okay, you are for Sigai, you are for these guys. Can you queue? These are just 44 people. Simple mathematics. Count for them and make them accept the verdict. But you see, from the executive, again, we cannot micromanage the events of the assembly. Because as is this by law, the assembly is independent in its own self. So the much that we can do as people of goodwill and being the father of that county and also caring so much, because as we talk now, schools are almost resuming, and it's a difficult time. We need to get bursaries for the children. As we talk now, we need medicines in our hospitals. Roads are bad. We need to work on the roads. And there are so many other things that needs to be done, more than majoritarian politics, because for me, this is selfish, it is unnecessary, and it cannot help the country to move forward.
Let's listen to the MCAs themselves after those chaos on Friday, but also what the president has said to them, which he spoke in Bomet on Sunday.
Disappointed because the Speaker chose to defy the party directive and not communicate letter written by our Secretary General, Veronica Maina, or House leadership.
As we speak, I garnered 29 votes out of 44 members for the UDA. That is what I garnered when we were in actually Embolos Hotel in Nakuru on 8th. And that makes the majority of the membership of the county assembly.
The court recently, with agreement between us and Paul Chirchir and the people who are the parties who are concerned, the court agreed to withdraw the case and be reinstated today.
Yes, 100%. 100% support. Si walikuwa wanasema tupatie, si tumepatia, sasa wanataka nini nyingine tena? Na we wish you well, tutakusupport 100% and the entire assembly support.
Naona bado kuna viongozi wengine bado wanang'ang'ana na mambo ya vyeo. Bado huyu anatafuta hii, mwingine anatafuta ile. Mimi nataka niwaambie MCAs wa Kericho, wacheni upuzi. Hiyo mchezo mnaendelea, sisi tunataka kila kiongozi ambaye amechaguliwa muanze kupanga mambo ya wananchi, sio kupanga mambo yenu ya vyeo sijui nani, mpaka mnapoteza wakati wa county assembly mkipigana. Shame on you.
Wow. That's the party leader of UDA and the President of the Republic speaking to the MCAs in Kericho. Deputy Speaker, when you look at this, I'm sure you're allowed to speak about this now.
Oh, yeah. Now this is a good topic.
Okay.
Very good for me.
When you look at this chaos, and your county was involved in a similar situation, only that they were not fighting each other, they were fighting the other level of government. I mean, what do you do? Because wananchi do not care who is the leader of majority. They care about what services are you giving to us.
Sam, if I can comment on this issue, Kericho Assembly. You know, for example, I've heard the governor say that the speaker participated in removing members from a committee. That entirely is not his business, because there is an officer we call the majority whip. And of course, the majority whip, because the seat is not controversial, the majority whip and his minority, and his deputy, and the select committee, that is the committee, the body that should be able to praise members in committees. So if the speaker is interfering with the way committees should operate, then that is one of the causes of these problems. Number two, you know, county assemblies does not live in isolation. There is the political party which has the majority, and it is actually UDA. The UDA party officials, even from the national level, should give guidance to the assembly on what should happen, especially if they should conduct elections, and even they can recommend who they feel should even be the majority in that assembly. They can direct and give guidance. This is the position of the party, yeah, because the party should be there to give guidance and to make sure that everything lands in the assemblies. So I think that should be honored. If there is any position from the party, it should be honored by the speaker and to communicate what the party has directed.
Okay. Wakili Hillary, so then what happens in such a situation? I know the party organs are taking it up, the party leader has spoken about it, but how do you make them work together? Because at the end of the day, there has to be a certain environment for you to deliver.
Maybe as a rider, I'll be very conflicted to comment on this. I've got a number of those legislators, that is the members of the county assembly, as my clients. I've got the governor as my client and my friend. I'm a practitioner. I've got the senator as my majority leader in the Senate and a friend of my client, as well as both the assembly and the county government. But then again, it's important that we have this conversation, because I do not approve of that clip. I mean, it's really not the best show that we can have, especially from honorable members, whether they're from Kericho, from Bomet, from Tarakanidi, or anywhere, or Meru. I mean, we really don't approve of such a thing, because remember, Sam, we are representatives of the people in our capacities, various capacities as leaders. Therefore, the show that we give out there in every opportunity that the public can see should be the very best. So really, that the events of the day which we have seen in the clip are very unfortunate. And as a neighbor, as a brother, the best I can advise is this: all is not lost, by the way. A political environment is given that it can never be smooth. The best they can do in the circumstances is the party has intervened by, I'm told, there are certain communications that has gone. The leadership also of the House, that is from the Speaker and the members of the County Assembly. People remember, by the way, some who have run this journey together. It is not very hard to sit down and say, let's dialogue, let's agree, let us see whom we can compromise on to be our candidate. And in doing all that, of course, remember, the executive is completely different from the county assembly. The county assembly is in itself independent, and therefore, I believe they should be able to sit down and agree on who to have as their majority leader and the entire leadership, especially after the party leader has made comments like he did on Sunday. It is really not the very best to be told, you know what, watching you pussy on national TV, and you are a leadership that the people are seeing. It's not the very best to be told, shame on you. I think it should be an opportunity for them to retreat, sit down, agree on the leadership, and move on to perform on what Article 176 of the Constitution and Section 8 of the County Governments Act requires them to do. Okay. I've listened to the governor, I've listened to the MCAs, and I'm offering to be an umpire so that we make sure that we sit down, agree, and have a leadership that is dealing with the issues of the people. Because we are within a good time to resolve these issues.
And of course, Kericho is not an isolated assembly. Migori County Assembly had a similar situation yesterday, but this time they were fighting over the membership of the County Public Service Board. One MCA was injured, that is Stella Ombonya, who is a nominated MCA. And again, those disagreements, this is just about, is it 2 or so, 3 weeks or so, since the Senate made a decision on the fate of Governor Kawira Mwangaza of Meru County. And Deputy Speaker, before I get back to you, Governor, how is the situation now? We saw an attempt by the Deputy President to resolve the crisis in Meru, and one wonders, why did it have to wait until the full cause of impeachment? Couldn't it have come earlier when the MCAs were expressing themselves against the governor and the governor against the MCAs?
Yeah, let me say that, you see, time is of essence in everything. And you cannot stop the process which can be initiated in any assembly, county assembly. Whatever happened during that time, let me say, is now water under the bridge. So what we are focusing is on how the two teams can work together. And I'm happy that that process has started. And so far, and the President, I want to thank him also for giving guidance. As I said, you know, Meru also voted for His Excellency the President, more than almost 400,000 votes. So he is also an interested party in that county. He voted, because he was voted by the same people who voted for me, who voted for the governor, who voted for the MPs and the MCAs. So something is happening now after the Senate made its decision, and the President elected his deputy to take charge of the process. The Deputy President has met has MPs. We have discussed these issues. He has met the MCs. He has also met the governor. And once the MCs are back from some training they are attending, then there will be a small committee that will sit down now to run out all the issues that are at play. And for now, Meru will really have no issues again, because all the issues, all the players, especially the governor and the members of County Assembly, are ready to sit and discuss issues and work together.
So no change of leadership will happen in the Assembly, or you don't know? No,
the Assembly is okay. They have no problem, yes. From the Speaker to the other majority side, minority side, there are no issues in the County Assembly.
Governor, tell me about, I know there's something you wanted to add. As you add it, tell me about the process of forming government, because I understand that you have CECs. I'm not sure about chief officers. How is that going, and how are you running the affairs of the county?
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to say, it may not be that, that the state of Kericho as it is now in the assembly may not be that lost completely. We will be actively engaging with our MCAs, and I know quite a number of them are fantastic guys, and we'll be engaging with them, try to build a roundtable discussion so that as we move forward, we solidify the leadership, because it's also our responsibility to mentor other leaders and make them grow. So it's a working process where all of us are co-joined for our success and for the development of our people. Yes, transition has not been very rosy and very easy, not only in Kericho, but across many counties. You remember that in Kericho, when we were forming in CECs, somebody went to court and says that the CECs are not properly constituted, and we had close to 5 women or 4 women in the cabinet, but the court was able to trash out, and we have our CECs in place. When we actually went ahead to constitute our CEOs, we did it, and a week thereafter, somebody again a petition again ran to court. It's a process we are trying to sort out, and I know in fullness of time we are going to sort out. But remember, we had some 1 or 2 CEOs who were not completely handed over from their departments, and we're still using their rights to prosecute government business.
How many departments do you have?
We have 10.
So you need 10 chief officers?
We need 12 chief officers, because we have 12 chief officers.
12 chief officers.
But CECs are 10, yeah.
And now you only have 2?
No, we have all of them in the office, But you see, 1 week after we have them in place, somebody went to court to buy them from transaction.
That's what I'm saying. So they are not able to work.
They are not able, but we also work with our directors, because we have directors, senior directors in departments, and the law again allows us to also directly work with our directors for the purpose of accounting, because at the end of the day, government business must proceed. And you see, when you talk about the accounting officers, they are key in terms of raising the projects, loading the projects, managing the IFMIs, and payment of salaries, and also other things. So these are key officers. So somehow we always need to work a way of moving with them. The CEC finance by law actually gives out delegation authority for transition of services. So it is something in the courts, but I'm saying that we are moving. But again, it's very important to note at this point that Kericho was not isolated. We had Nakuru County, we had Narok County, we had Migori, and so many other counties. You see, we have funny situations, which is blackmailing governors. I remember one of the cases the CE says were reaching out to officers that they need 5 million. So you have somebody in the streets that just wakes up in the morning and feels that I don't like this CEs that have been put in place, and just wake up in the morning and run to court and sign some petition. But again, you cannot rule out external interference of county governments. Remember that, you know, when you talk about a governor, and I'll say this with a lot of insight, having been there now for 5 months, it's not the easiest job anyone would want to imagine. I'm telling you, because you have to deal with the politics of the assembly. You deal with politics of maybe even other elected leaders. You deal with politics of those that are eyeing the same seat. And all of them are looking into the governor. And you look into the raya, they were looking at you. You also deal with politics of those who are disappointed. Remember, there are people who fundraise for you in their campaigns, and they're hoping that you're going to make them a CEC. Reality of the matter is that everybody will be a CEC. But this guy realized that you cannot be a CEC. He also uses proxies, he runs to courts. So it is one of those things that we try to balance. But I'm telling you, for many governors, it's been easy. So secondly, as you transist again, remember that you're also inheriting a working population and a working culture that has been there before you come in. When I went to Kericho, for example, as a governor, I was shocked that as 11 a.m. people have not reported their offices. And if by chance they report for 1 hour. Then at Sasita, they are gone for Nyamachoma, and you'll never see them again until the following day. So
does that mean there's no work to do, or what?
There was no?
Does that mean there's no work to do?
There is work, but you see, cultures are built. And so as new governors, you try to bring in place these things. You try to get in place correct procurement processes. You try to get in place, our working systems of government. And remember that for any change, there's always resistance. Okay. And managing all this resistance, trying again to make people understand that you're not coming to punish them, but you are doing this for the common good of the people that we are supposed to serve in public service, and injecting discipline in the public service is such a tough process, which requires a fortitude mind and a very strong heart to do the same. Okay. Because you can easily be wallowed by the same cartels. Let me tell you, as when I end this conversation, I looked into, for example, the way procurements were done and the way contracts were being awarded. And you'll be surprised, even in the bending bills committee that we had, that you will find one company associated with maybe even a worker in the county or an ex-CC in the assembly. One company has done close to 30 jobs and requires 200 million to be paid. But when you go to the field and you try to look for that work, they say, we build an ECD center there. When you send the team to see if there's an ECD center there, it's a maize plantation. And Fujas has been raised.
I think I have an idea of what you're talking about. Do you want to go on record who this is?
No, I don't. But I'm just saying that there is much to be done. There's a lot to be done. And what we need to do to make the default units work is to act within the law, but at the same time demonstrate leadership and sincerity in giving value for people's money. Because Senate struggle to get us money to the devolved units. When this money comes to the devolved units, and then we join hands to have a party of looting, then we defeat the purpose of devolved units.
And Deputy Speaker, so how do you resolve that? Because many governors have come in and said that we want an audit of pending bills, we want an audit of the HR or the staff audit, and many of them are realizing that there are certain things that are done the wrong way. But people are also fearing, what if you want to now take action against those so that you can bring your own political cronies into the system? How are you helping to manage these transitions?
You see, the committee that is supposed to handle these issues is the Public Accounts and Investments Committee. And any governor who has issues with his accounts and the way things were done should actually raise these issues with the committee so that they can be, they can know and now do the investigations, even someone the former regime, so that they can appear before that committee in the Senate and all of the issues that are there. If there is any money lost, especially now that you have won this, the governor, His Excellency, see that the ECD center was constructed in paper. But when we go to the ground, there is nothing. Okay. That is why actually we want more empowerment of the Senate through the oversight fund, so that now senators can be able to move. Especially now the senator for Kericho, for example, should even move in every corner with all the projects so that he can also verify himself, because all this money came from the Senate to the governor. So even the Senate should be involved, especially in verification.
Structurally, how does he use that information? Because the Public Accounts Committee works with the reports of the Auditor General or other agencies.
That is why even after you get reports from the Auditor General, the committee can go to do physical verification of projects.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
To do that.
Structurally, at the Senate, what is the place of a senator of, say, Bomet, because he's here, goes to Bomet and realizes that there are so many projects that are, on paper, they're executed, but in physical evidence there. How does he use that information in the structure of how Senate works?
That is why I'm saying all that information. If there is those gaps, the committee that is supposed to handle that process is the Public Accounts and Investments Committee. He can report that issue in the Senate, and that matter will be given to the committee so that the committee now can investigate, can even summon the people involved so that now they can do a report. Okay. Which can now be the final process through the Senate, yes. But one thing I want to tell you that is, even though we have the Office of the Auditor General with their reports, it is important for the Senate to still go to do physical verification of projects, to visit and see whether the right thing was done.
Senator, the last time we were here on the show, we were talking about that and even examining how exactly you do that. That time there was the talk about the Senate Oversight Fund. But I'm just wondering, because the Auditor General's report about the current developments will come probably maybe a year or 2 years after now. The Senate will look at it maybe 3 or so years after now. So how do you keep things current and moving?
True that we transact the business at the committee level on the report that we get from the Auditor General. So CPAC, for instance, looking at what lately is happening, is seeking to summon governors over the financial years 2 or 3 backwards, such that the ability to do under CPAC what is currently happening is yet to be felt. When the governors got into office in August, a number of them are from the papers we're reading. They are supposed to, 25 of them had said, you know what, the first thing that I'll do within 2 weeks of my getting into office is to do an audit of the workforce, the human resource, to make sure that ghost workers are not in. That actually was done in, I think, 8 of them, and the reports were made public. The consumption of that report now for purposes of giving recommendations by the Senate when it's undertaking its oversight role is not available as at now, because that report was made public by the governor after a task force, after the task force that they could have appointed. And it's now for the consumption of the public. To undertake a review of it by the Senate, the process now would be different. Such that when my senior here, the Deputy Speaker, says that there'll be needs to also facilitate the Senate to do part of their oversight role by actually visiting the counties and getting those reports. It is part of the conversation that we had in our last session here, that was last year, on the role of the senators and also the agitation for the Oversight Fund, which is an ongoing debate, by the way. We have the joint committees of the National Assembly and the Senate considering it. So it will still be a very dicey thing to immediately get a hold of the issues affecting the counties at a very early stage. The unfortunate thing is, of course, the fact that we've got to have the Auditor General do its work and bring in a report, which is late, way after our financial year is done. And that is the challenge that we still have. But if only we were to accommodate the consideration of the roles of elective positions, including now at the county assembly level, oversighting the governor, or the Senate oversighting the county assembly and the county government, at a very objective level. Those are the things now which I would call them low-lying, because if a report has been done by a task force that has been appointed by the governor and it's been made public, I should be able to interrogate it as a senator. I should be able to move it to the next level and say, if indeed this is actually the report of the task force that the government, the county government and the governor has got every goodwill to implement it, we should be able to implement it and make sure that if it's about ghost workers, get rid of them. If we are talking about 4.9 billion loss in terms of salaries paid to ghost workers, it is so painful for the taxpayer to lose such an amount of money.
I hear you. And of course, several reports of the control of budget will show you that there are sizable or significant amounts of money that are paid manually to workers. And I also know, I just don't have the specific figure for Kericho, but I also know it's existent. I want us to take some bit of feedback, then I'll give the final word to Governor Mutai on what Kenyans are saying via Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. At Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is daybreak. On the three areas we've looked at, Engineer Lazaro is saying that lack of proper infrastructure in most of schools are some of the biggest headaches facing full implementation of CBC. Some schools lack even basic things like libraries, leave alone laboratories. Rev Harry, you're saying that one thing good is in the junior secondary, the only difference is change of uniform and our school fees. It's a huge relief to parents. God bless. Flavian Mulama, Chebukati was the hero in the elections of August 2022, and history shall be very kind to him if all we have heard from the DP is anything to go by. Okay. Godi Baraza Were, governors don't have the luxury of time to engage in flimsy agenda. Wananchi want to see and feel pure service delivery. Any county government that will find time to engage in unnecessary political bickering should be dissolved. All right. Quite a serious recommendation there. Ephantus Mutige is saying, Chebukati will remain a hero. He refused not to bow to all the pressure. Elections are won at the polling station. Causing chaos at the National Tallying Center was very wrong. Sawe, leadership is about serving the needs of those who elected you. It's not about power, but about being a servant of the people. Indeed, shame to those MCAs fighting over positions. And Flavian Mulama, Mr. Chebukati has shown how independent IBC can be by withstanding the intimidation by state agencies and strictly upholding the rule of law and the will of the people. The next chairperson and commissioners should take you from him. And Governor, your final word about your priorities in the county, especially now that you have those challenges. You may resolve them, but also how to deal with the needs of the electorate in Kericho.
Thank you so much. One of the things that we have done very quickly within 100 days in office is that we've been able to get back water to most parts of Bureti constituency. You remember you've been running in the news over and over last year of Itaria Water Dam, which was shared between Bomet and Kericho. We're able to buy bumps, and now we can supply up to 70% of the residents of Bureti with water. We are doing last mile distribution in areas like Mologit and other areas, and what we are working as government now is to ensure that we do last mile distribution of water to many of our homes as we create new projects. Secondly, we have tamed the corruption in the health center. When I get into office, I discovered that the chief pharmacists who are in charge of our stores, as soon as government medicine from KEMSA arrive to the stores, then the pickup is waiting for them to be distributed to private practitioners. And so we've been able to handle that. And right now, we have worked hard to ensure that even in our rural facilities, we have medicine. We are at the last stage of building a stopgap cancer center, which will be done within a month. I think it's almost to completion. I just checked the photos from the contractor, and it's almost in its last completion. And we intend that in the next 2 months, we'll be able to offer chemo services to cancer patients in Kericho. While at the same time, we intend then to advertise by next week to build a standalone cancer unit. We are also closing the gap for our maize farmers in parts of Kipkelian, and we are consolidating our funds. And by next week, we'll be advertising, expressing interest of contractors who will build for us a maize miller that will see us process the flour for consumption, while at the same time, we'll also see us process feeds for animals, even as we strengthen our cooperatives and work on it. Lastly, which is very important for our youth, watch the newspapers next week. We'll advertise 210 internship programs for our youths who are graduates from the university. And while at the same time, we will also be advertising by next week or the other week, 30 agricultural support officers that will work with our farmers to strengthen their work in the farms.
Okay. All right, I hear you, Governor. I wish you had more time because you have also views from your county of residents Alfred Mutai, Stanley Koe, Edmond Langat, John Chepngeno, Hilary Kipto, basically them laying an assessment of your leadership, some saying that yes, there's water, but there are areas that are yet to get that water. Then saying that some here there is medicine at hospitals, but when they go to the hospitals, like Kapkatet Hospital, they're saying there is no medical supplies in terms of medicine, and also saying that you've been unable to bring together the leadership within the assembly. I mean, these are just some of the current issues that will be bringing to you later on. Thank you all. Senator Wakili Hilary Sigei from Bomet County, Governor Dr. Eric Mutai, and Deputy Speaker Kathuri Murungi, who's also the Senator of Meru County, for making time for us. And we keep talking about the matters of counties and devolution in our subsequent shows. My name is Sam Gituku. Bye for now. See you some other time.